Welcome to Balanced Hormones Empowered Women. I'm your host, Abby Vallejo, licensed healthcare practitioner, registered dietitian, certified personal trainer, and health coach. And what I do is I teach women of all ages how to align their diet, their lifestyle, and their exercise with their hormones in order to unlock their most vibrant health in a feminine based approach that's about working smarter, not harder. So, today I wanted to talk to you about curly hair care. So, in my last podcast episode, Courtney Cowie, my fellow practitioner friend, and I dove into root causes of hair loss because that's something that we both get lots of clients coming to us for, and just a general conversation that we as women I noticed are having a lot, especially in the years following the pandemic. So if you're dealing with hair loss, thinning, or shedding, go check out my last podcast episode. It goes into the root causes of why that happens, and we share some advice about what you can do about it. Now, as kind of a follow up to that, I wanted to talk about hair care and specifically curly hair care. So, this is something that I have spent my entire life pretty much researching and perfecting and basically trying to figure out. And I just had someone ask me the other day, a friend of mine came up and she was like, "Hey, I actually have naturally curly hair, just no one ever knows because I'm always wearing it back in a braid or pulling it back or brushing it. But I can tell that you put a lot of work into your hair." I was like, "Thank you, I do." And she's like, "But I don't know where to start. Like, how do I take care of my naturally curly hair? No one's ever taught me." And that just made me think I really wanted to make a video about this because no one ever taught me either. It was something I had to learn on my own. So especially in this day and age where we have so many like multicultural um, children and hairs to hair textures coming out, and if you're like me and you grew up in a household where your mom had straight hair or wavy hair, my mom also has short hair. It's like she wasn't able to teach me through no fault of her own. She just wasn't able to teach me how to take care of my curly hair. And of course, my dad wasn't any help either. So it was something that I kind of had to figure out on my own. And there was lots of trial and error. And now I'm 36 years old. When I was a kid and when I was a teenager, straight hair was in. So everyone was straightening their hair. I really did not grow up with examples of what beautiful, healthy, curly hair, natural hair looks like because everyone was straightening their hair if they had any natural texture or curls to it. So it wasn't really until my 20s and even my 30s where I really like got my hair care nailed down. So, I wanted to share with you what works for me. Now, my hair type, now obviously everyone's different. So, the products, I'm literally brought all my products on to show you and all my tools and all my techniques. I'm going to go through my entire process for you. Now, I have kind of dry, fine hair. So, this works really well for hair like mine that tends to be more fine, more dry, and the challenging thing about my hair, so this is day 4 hair for all of you, curly ladies, you know what I'm talking about. We don't wash our hair every single day. I do mine once a week. So this is day 4. So the last I did my hair was 4 days ago. Um, I only wash my hair once a week because A, it just doesn't get greasy. It tends to be drier the longer I let it go. And B, it takes so much time that it would be hard to do that every single day. So I just want to say if you're listening to this on Spotify, consider watching this on YouTube because I'm actually going to be showing you the visuals of the tools and the products that have really worked well for me. So I feel like I've finally gotten to a point in my life where I've really like dialed in a good, reliable system to take care of my curls. And I know how hard that can be. So if you're someone who has multi-textured, multicultural hair, if you grew up without a mom that has the same type of hair as you and you've just been struggling to find what works for your hair, I completely empathize with you. This is what has worked for me. Now, you can certainly go ahead and try my whole method, see what works for you. Keep what works, leave the rest, but the overall method, whether you use exactly the same products or not, is pretty tried and true, I would say, for any curly girl. So, I'm going to just dive in and go through my process one by one. So, like I said, wash my hair once a week. When I do, I have been loving the Lus brand, LUS. This is their shampoo. I get it unscented. I think that's a really awesome. It also doesn't have um, all of those like sulfates or harmful chemicals, because I'm always looking. The big challenge here is finding a product that's as natural as possible, but that actually works for curly hair. I've never been able to find something that's absolutely perfect, that had no chemicals in it, but that worked really well. This is kind of a happy medium because it doesn't have the nasty, harsh chemicals in it, and yet it works really well. So this is the shampoo. So obviously I shampoo my hair. Then I have the conditioner. Again, Luss. This is the unscented for all curl types. And what I do when I use the conditioner, I like to take a little bit of essential oil. Often I'll use tea tree and put a few drops. So I'll put like a good dollop of conditioner in my hand and I'll put a few drops of essential oil. Sometimes I use rosemary. I often use tea tree. And then I massage it in and I let it sit during the rest of my shower. Now, the reason I do this is incredibly cleansing for the scalp. So if you have like dandruff or dry flaky scalp or any type of like those are kind of fungal issues on the scalp, tea tree can help kill that off. And rosemary is another popular one that's also good to stimulate scalp and growth and circulation to the scalp, which stimulates growth. So I always love doing a few drops of essential oil in my conditioner. I pin my hair up and then I do the rest of my shower, and then when I'm done, I rinse it. And then my final rinse, and this has been such a game changer for me. So I have a little mason jar next to the shower. I fill the bottom. So if the mason jar is like this, I fill like this much. So maybe an eighth. I don't know if that was an accurate visual representation, but I just fill a little bit in the bottom of apple cider vinegar. Now I get the one by Bragg's. That is the natural one. It has the mother in it. You can see that it's cloudy. It has little pieces of stuff in there. That's the good stuff in there, right? Now, reason being is because curly hair is naturally acidic. If you think about the pH of water is neutral. So when we are washing our hair, we're putting a neutral pH into it. But in order for our curls to truly thrive, they actually need to be a little bit more acidic than what water would be. So that's why I'll get that mason jar. I'll put a little bit of apple cider vinegar in it, and you want to fill up the rest with water so it dilutes, because you don't want to put just straight vinegar on your hair. It would be way too strong. You want to dilute it down, and you might have to play around with the ratio to get what feels right for you. But you just want it to be a weak acid. And then I'll literally take my hair, I'll dunk the ends in that jar, and then I'll dump the rest of it over my head and kind of massage it in as my final rinse. And I don't rinse it again. Now, does it smell like vinegar a little bit in the moment? Yes, but as soon as it dries, it doesn't smell like vinegar anymore. This is something I highly, highly recommend, because what it does is it puts that acid back in your curls that they need to actually curl up nice and healthy. And this is something, when I first started doing it, I could actually see the difference in how my curls got more defined. So highly, highly recommend getting some apple cider vinegar and doing that final rinse. Now, for the rest of the process. So then I get out of the shower, I pin up my hair, I put on my lotion and do those other things. And then when I'm ready to attend to my hair, what I do is I section it off. So I personally have found what works best for me is I will do the part that I want, and then I'll section off the top from the bottom. So usually like right about here, I'll kind of section up the top, and then I will divide the top where the part goes into two sections. So I end up having three. There's the right and the left section on the top, and then there's the bottom. So these are pinned up. The top sections get pinned up, and I start working on the bottom. So now, at this point, my hair is damp, but it's not dripping wet. If I started putting conditioner in it right now, it'd probably be kind of frizzy. So you want your hair to be more wet, and the more wet it is when you put the conditioner in, the less frizzy it will be, the more defined your curls will be. So once I've got it sectioned, then I just get my hands wet, or you could use a spray bottle, run it through my hair until my hair kind of gets dripping wet. And I do that on each section before I apply my product. Then I go back to my Luss 3-in-1. Now it kind of sounds like I'm sell Luss products. I don't have any affiliation with them. It's just, this is what's working for me great right now. So I'm just sharing what works. Doesn't necessarily work for everyone, but for my type of hair, it's been working great. Again, I get the unscented one because I have heard people say that the scent's kind of strong, and strongly scented things are kind of harsh chemicals. So I always opt to get the unscented version. This is a 3-in-1, so it kind of it helps style and hold your hair, but I like even more than that. So I also get their gel. They have a seamoss gel. Even if you're not choosing less, I highly recommend still using kind of the same product layout where you do your shampoo and your conditioner that you rinse out in the shower, do your final rinse with an apple cider vinegar, and then you want some type of leave-in and gel, and that tends to work for most types of curly hair, right? So, like I said, I do the sections, I get each section wet, and then I apply about, this is a pump, so I'll do like 2 pumps worth product in my hair, run it through, and then once I've got it through, oh, you know what I also completely forgot to say? Detangling, right? I detangle when I'm in the shower. I have a wide tooth comb. I just leave it in the shower. So when I get in the shower, before I start the whole process, I can't believe I forgot to say this. How important is detangling? I detangle first with my wide tooth comb, nice and gently under the water. It's so much easier to do than when your hair's dry. I mean, come on, I can't get a comb or a brush through this, but under the shower, I kind of gently detangle it first with my fingers, then I use the wide tooth comb. I use it again when I put the conditioner in my hair. So that's what the wide tooth comb is for. All right, back to where we were. So I've got the hair sections off. I've just got the section that I'm going to work on nice and wet, so it's dripping wet. I put 2 pumps of the all-in-one leave-in conditioner in my hair and I work it through. Then I take a little bit of gel. A little bit goes a long way, what I found with this gel. And I like to focus, more heavily on the ends than on the top. And I put in the gel. Once I do that, then my next tool is a Denman brush. So if you've never heard of a Denman brush and you have curly hair, this is a way to get your curls really nice and defined. This tool was absolutely life-changing because we tend to think, oh, I have curly hair, brushes aren't for me. Well, yes, actually some of them are. So there's some type of detangling brushes out there. This isn't a detangling brush though. This is a curl defining brush. Now, when you go and you look at Denman, Denman, there's different amounts of bristles inside the brush. So I have a 7. That means there's 7 rows of bristles here in the brush. That seems to be perfect for my hair texture. Now you can either get more or less depending on what type of curl texture you have. Some people do better with more bristles, with less bristles. That's something you'll kind of have to do your research in if you have a really different curl pattern than mine. But for me, the 7 bristles in the Denman brush works amazingly well. So there's tons of YouTube videos about how to use a Denman brush, and there's kind of some different techniques, but basically you do what I just said, like you get your hair wet, you put on your product first. That always works best for me. And then once I have my conditioner and my leave-in, then I'll actually take the individual curl and you kind of just like, let me not actually do it because I'm going to ruin it, but you just kind of twist the brush. So the point is you don't want to just brush your hair down, right? Because that'll make it flat and you don't want to do that. You actually want to section off each individual curl because the point is to define the curl and let it find its own definition. So obviously you have to have curly hair for this to work. You have to have a natural curl pattern, but you're just trying to highlight that and make it more pronounced, right? So you get the individual section, you brush out and up from your head, and then you kind of give it a twist. Now, whether you go right or left completely depends on, what direction your curl wants to go. You might want to play around with it a little bit. I literally do this piece by piece, which is why my hair routine is a little, time intensive, but the results speak for themselves in terms of the curls getting nice and defined. And keep in mind, this is day 4 hair and they are still this defined. I'm so impressed by that. So I do that on the bottom section and then I pin that back and then I'll bring down one top section at a time. Same thing, I'll get it wet so it's dripping wet. I'll put on the 2 pumps of the 3-in-1 Luss leave-in. Then I will follow that up with a little bit of the gel and then I'll kind of rake that all through. Once I've raked it all through, I'll get my brush back out. I'll do my little brushing out and flip kind of technique. And then what I do for the top, I'll grab it and I'll just kind of you know, jingle it a little bit like this because you don't want to work when hair's wet and you touch it too much, it tends to get frizzy really fast. So you don't want to spend a ton of time like messing with it. You want to get your product in, you want to use your brush, and then you just want to give it a little like dee 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 so that the curls kind of bounce up by themselves, right? So it's not just like plastered tight against your head. And then I do that. Okay, so I do that for the whole head. Whew. When that is done, then I wait about an hour Ideally, if I have time, I like to let it air dry for about an hour. And what you'll find happens is because you use something with a gel, your hair will kind of get a little crunchy. Now, this gel isn't super crunchy, it's like a medium hold. However, it still will form a cast on your hair, right? So my hair will look a little stringy and crunchy when I have the gel in and it's just air dried. But so I let it dry. The sweet spot for me is about an hour. Longer is actually better, but sometimes I just don't have that much time in a day, right? I literally have to plan out a few hours for me to do this whole process, which is why I only do it once a week. But once I've let it air dry for a little bit, ideally about an hour, then I get my blow dryer, and the key is to have a diffuser. So that's this little accessory that fits on the end of the blow dryer, right? And if you have curly hair, this is one of your best friends because we know we don't want to use a blow dryer that doesn't have a diffuser. It's just going to cause frizz and blow your hair all over the place and not keep your curls nice and defined, which is what we're working on doing. But when you have a diffuser, you can put it right up in your hair and it will not cause frizz and it will just dry the curls as is. So I spend, a bit of time, and if I've let it air dry for more than an hour or so, it does not take long. It really only takes a few minutes. And what you're doing is I'm using like a medium or low heat. I never use high heat because that's damaging for the hair. But you want it to be enough that it sort of melts the cast of the gel. So the gel is still working in your hair, but it's no longer crunchy because I don't really like the crunchy look. Maybe you do, and that's totally fine. But I like my curls to look a little bit softer, yet still defined. And that's what the diffuser will do for you. So I will do that. I'll kind of start with the roots. Or these aren't the roots, these are the ends. I start with the ends. I let those dry a little bit. Then I'll do kind of different sections of my hair. Then I'll put it up at the scalp and I'll just kind of hold it, and you can hold it right against your head, especially if you're not using really high heat, you're going to be fine to do that. And then at the end, I'll flip my hair over and, blow dry it upside down. And that works really well. Then the other things that I didn't bring these with me, but I'll just quickly tell you the other things that I do that really, really make a difference in terms of maintaining your curls, because you want it to last as long as possible. You just had this whole long process. If you follow all of those steps, you're going to be like, yay, I did it. Wow, mission complete, right? Now you want it to last for another week, at least another 5 days, right? So the key is then when you go to bed at night, I have a silk pillowcase, but I take it further than that because that's really good for your skin to help prevent wrinkles, just FYI. But I also have a silk scrunchie and a silk bonnet. So what I do is something called pineappling. You can Google this, but basically what you do is you flip your head over and you pull your hair. So if I'm going to flip my head over and I'm going to pile my hair all on the top of my head. So I have it up like this. This is why it's called a pineapple, because, if your hair is short, it kind of looks like a pineapple. Hold it with a silk scrunchie, just loosely, not tightly, right? Because you don't want to cause breakage in your hair. Then once I have that, I kind of bundle it all up and I put a silk bonnet over my hair. So when I lay down to sleep, my curls don't get scrunched. I'm not laying on them. They're not like getting all over the place or getting messed up. And then when I take it down in the morning, you just gently shake it out and your curls are going to be intact. And that's amazing. And then what you can do is if you need to like redefine anything a little bit, sometimes if I've like showered and not left a ton of time before bed, if there's any dampness left in my hair, they might be, slightly a little wonky or something. They're still defined, but maybe like I've got one sticking out this way or something. Just get your hands wet and just go over each individual curl with a little bit of water, and then just scrunch and redefine, and you are good to go. And on the rest of the days, that only takes like 5 minutes. So my hair care routine is basically 6 out of 7 days of the week. It takes me 5 minutes, and then on that seventh day, whenever wash day is, I like to leave like a good 2 or 3 hours for me to go through my whole process, including the air drying and drying at a leisurely pace, which is a great time to like listen to podcasts or do other things. But that is my method that has really just been life changing for me when I got this dialed in. Because, like I said, I have spent so many years trying to figure out what is the best way to take care of my hair. I just kind of had to come to accept that I do not have low maintenance hair, but I found the best way to deal with it as possible. And I also highly encourage you not to use like tight elastic bands on your hair because that can cause breakage. I do love the claw clips. So, if I need to pull my hair back, sometimes I'll use a scrunchie. Like Honestly, I know so many of us have this thing against scrunchies because Carrie Bradshaw in Sex and the City, if you ever watch Sex and the City, I mean, I feel like I grew up watching Sex and the City because Carrie Bradshaw said that no woman in her right mind in New York would wear a scrunchie. And somehow we all thought, oh my God, scrunchies are bad. But let me tell you, scrunchies, if you're a curly girl, scrunchies are your best friend, especially like silk scrunchies, some type of material that's not going to snag on your hair because it's not going to cause the same amount of breakage as an elastic band, especially an elastic band with metal on it. So, invest in a good silk or satin bonnet, some silk or satin scrunchies, a good claw clip that you can twist your hair and pull it back so you don't always have to be using elastics. And then get you some apple cider vinegar, maybe some essential oils, and just find the good quality products that work for you and get a system. If you have curly hair, you really need to have a system. But I promise you, it's completely worth it. So I hope that this has been helpful. If you know of anyone that has curly hair or multicultural type curls or different curl patterns on their own head, even, please share this with them in the hopes that they find it helpful. And thank you for tuning in.